Okay, we are on day 2 of making our pinch pot planters for Ceramics High School 2020. Quick reminder, so here's what I'm going for with my example. We have made your pinch pots. You should be able to find those. They are wrapped in plastic with your name on them. Make sure that you have your space prepped with your canvas board, your black tray of tools, and I will come around and give you a smaller chunk of clay. Today our goal is to add the appendages. An appendage is going to be anything that's attached to a base on your clay. For this project, the appendage is going to be things like eyes, nose, feet, possibly horns, antlers if you're adding that. Remember, your creature is supposed to illustrate some sort of an emotion. So, for me, I wrote the emotion kind of harebrained or flaky because it's been that kind of a year so far, okay? So, when we are creating these, we don't need a whole lot of clay. This is meant to be a quick introductory project. First, I'm going to break a little piece off of there and I'm going to create the eyes, okay? First thing I do is kind of roll it into a sphere and then I'm going to simply pat it with my palm. This is a quick and simple material-free way to make a slab. A slab is just any flattened piece of clay. So you can see it's kind of like a pancake. It's about the consistency or thickness of a pancake, okay? Now, looking at my drawing, I'm going to try and make a circular shape for the eyes, okay? I can cut them out of this slab if I would like, okay? Another way you could do it is by starting with the pancake shape for the eyes. Sometimes I like to do it this way because your edges end up nice and clean because they don't have to be cut. So I'm going to start with that shape and just very lightly pat it with my palm. And now I have two nice circular shapes for the eyes. Okay? Now, of course, we have the irises, or the colored part of the eyes, which you want to include in your eye, no matter what kind of a creature eye you're making, because it's going to give it more life. Okay? I always tell my ceramics classes when we are building something that has a face, the eyes are something to spend extra time on because they are going to give it that lifelike quality. Okay? So I've cut 2 circles out of my slab. I'm just going to kind of smooth out the edges of those shapes, and then I can temporarily place them on the whites of the eye and see how they look. Okay? Once I am happy with that, you're going to get your slip container. Number one thing to remember is always score and then slip when we are attaching pieces like you are today. Scoring, as I'm going to just simply scratch, both pieces need to be scratched into the clay. Okay? If they are not, they will fall apart once the moisture leaves the clay and it's in the kiln. I'm now going to take my brush and apply some slip to those 2 scored areas and gently attach the piece. Okay? Now, to really achieve my sort of flaky or harebrained emotion here, I'm going to have the irises looking in opposite directions. Okay? Okay? Now, you could leave it like this. You can also add like another area, like for example the pupil. And one of the ways I like to do that is using the end of a tool. For example, here I use the end of the paintbrush to make an indent into my smallest sphere, my smallest circle shape rather. Okay? And so now I have those 2 kind of kooky looking eyes. All right? Once you have a shape like that prepared, it is best to apply it to your piece. You don't want to have it be the last 5 minutes of class and you have all these pieces that are not attached. That's just not a good way to do it. So, rather than putting everything together separately, I like to put one piece on at a time. Okay? So I'm going to decide where I want the eyes to go and I'm going to score that area on my clay. If you're not quite sure, you can easily stick it to the clay and decide if that looks right, and then you can very gently, I mark around where that shape is. So for example, I'm marking around where the perimeter of that eye is, and in between those marks is where I score then. Okay? So that is a more procedural way to do it, if you would like. Okay, because otherwise sometimes you scratch and then you end up with scratches going outside of your shape. Okay? So I'm scratching onto the pinch pot. I'm scratching the back of my pancake kind of shaped eye here. I'm applying the slip and I'm going to press very gently. Your clay is very soft at this point. You don't want to press too firmly or what you'll end up doing is smashing your shape flat. So gentle pressure. Again, be careful. this modeling knife is sharp. If you're holding it in your hand like I am, you can easily cut your hand if you're not being observant to what's going on. Okay? I'm gonna bring that one kind of up and kind of a little more goofy. When I apply them, I like to press so I can see the slip coming through on the side. That tells me that there's no air gaps or places where the clay is not attached. Okay? So here's what we got so far. Pretty hilarious. Okay? So now I have the eyes. Next thing I'm going to do is continue building this up. Okay? So I have a nose I need to add. I have other different appendages or shapes I might add. In general, I can cut these from my slab. Okay? So if I have the nose, I already have my slab, and I'm just drawing the shape into there. This is very much like how your drawing was when you first drew on the paper. Okay, I'm drawing the shape into the slab of clay. Once it's the shape I want, I then take my modeling knife and trace around the shape, making sure I'm cutting all the way through to the canvas board. Okay, to release the shape, I'm going to draw a line from the edge of the shape to the edge of my slab. Okay, this allows me to pull away from the shape without damaging the shape. I spend a little bit of time always kind of smoothing out the edges before I attach it to my pinch pot. Okay, and just to make time go a little faster, I'm going to just tack it on there so you guys can see it. Do not forget that if you tack it on there, you have to go back and slip and score it. Worst thing is when you have done that and you forget, and then I go to put it in the kiln and it falls right off. Well, that's because you did not go back and score and slip it onto the piece. Okay? So, I have that. Now I'm going to refer back to my sketch and kind of see how it's going. And of course, I understand that things are going to change when you get from the drawing phase to the sculpting phase, and that's certainly acceptable and fine, okay? We are all still learning here, so don't be fretting if you're like, oh, my sketch looks way different than my sculpture, okay? I'm not too worried about that. Things can always change. Really just worry about the quality of what you're creating. Okay, so I just used the bottom part of my slab there and cut that sort of moon shape out, and I'm trying it on to see how it looks. Okay, to see how I like it. I think I'm going to take the nose out because I feel like I like this sort of goofy creature look a little better without the nose. Okay, so like I said, always know that you can change how things look. I want to add some eyelashes to my goofy eyes here. Okay, and so I'm going to make just triangle shapes. As you are sculpting and attaching, think of the basic shape. Okay? Now some things like these little eyelashes, because they are so small and because my clay is all very wet here, I can actually attach those and just blend them in. Okay, so I don't necessarily have to score and slip those only because my clay is so soft. Okay, and because they're a small little piece in general. If you had something larger, okay, so you can see I'm attaching them and then blending them. If I had something larger or if my clay was drier, this would not be possible. Okay, just remember to have fun with this too. If it ends up being a totally ugly face, that is totally fine. Okay, it's our first project. We're just kind of learning the basic molding and application skills here. So just have fun with it. Okay, so now I got some eyelashes on there. All right, so next I would consider how I want to add other appendages such as the legs or the arms. Okay, and so I'm going to make that a separate video. So this is just your video on doing the face, and then I think I'll make a separate video of how to add appendages using a coil method. Okay, so for today, just worry about getting the face on there using that slab method. And then cutting, slipping, and scoring. Okay?